Time for another spoiler-filled discussion for The Well of Ascension. Again, like for my spoiler gush video for Mistborn, I'm not going to talk about the rest of the Cosmere here. I'm just going to talk about The Well of Ascension and Mistborn. I'm not going to allude to Hero of Ages. I just want to talk about what I just read. I love this series. This is my third or fourth reread. I honestly don't know. I'm pretty sure it's my fourth. But I didn't start tracking my reading till 2016, so everything can be a blur. This book, it's one of my favorite things, and I read it when I was starting to get slumpy, and it's perfect. So what I wanted to do in this video, last video I talked about some favorite scenes that I had, and this one, as I was like thinking about all the things that I wanted to say, it kind of landed into me wanting to talk about three characters, kind of our three main point of view characters in this book. I want to talk about Vin, I want to talk about Elend, and I want to talk about Sazed. And I don't know if that's how you say his name. Growing up, I said Sazed, but I've heard everyone else say Sazed, and I don't listen to the audiobooks. And these are fantasy words. So I don't know if there's a real pronunciation. I've actually heard Sanderson say in public he doesn't know how to pronounce his own names for characters. So I'm just going with it. But there was so much in the character arcs of this book that I really loved. And I think the character arcs really interacted well with the themes that I really like. Like, I'm not going to talk a lot about the story. Like, the story is also one of my favorite things. I think it sets up some amazing twists. Like, I remember this whole Mistborn trilogy was just me being like, how did I miss that? That said, I gave this to Ryan to read when we first started dating, and he called the Tensoon twist right away. Like, how does he have fun? Does he have fun? I don't think he has fun. That said, knowing the twists while reading it, like, all the clues are there. It's insane. You're just like, how was I so dense? How did I not do it? So the first thing, though, let's talk about our girl Vin. I feel like I connected with Vin on a level this time that I haven't connected with her in the past. I feel like in the past, I was going through things with Vin, but I couldn't understand her because I was also not understanding myself, if that makes sense. Vin has this issue with identity, with figuring out her role, for learning who she is and what's right and wrong for her, and also coming to terms with wanting to be with people she loves and being useful to people she loves, but also respecting the boundaries of her own anxiety and her own PTSD. That's what's happening in this book. And when you read it, when you're going through things like that, you kind of get annoyed at her. Because, at least for me, I was annoyed at myself. And I'm like, why can't you see that they don't think this way about you? Why can't you see your worth? You know, you look at this character and it's like, how do you think so little of yourself? And it's really just like, it's very relatable. And I mean, it's not till a couple years ago that I started to realize, oh, I have anxiety. And sometimes it's very like not present. Sometimes it's low grade and I can tell that my brain is just thinking too fast and I'm overreacting to things. And other times it's a real anxiety attack, right? Like there's levels, and some of it is triggered and some of it's random. And knowing my anxiety now and seeing Vin, I'm like, oh, I get it. And like how her trauma and PTSD manifested in touch aversion, which is very much a thing that I never understood how or why that happened to me growing up. Like, you know, I feel like we all have stuff in our life that sticks with you and is like, you have to overcome it, and it, you know, can provide some level of trauma. That definitely happened to me. And one of the ways that manifested is that unless it was romantic, I did not want to be touched by anyone. To this day, I don't love physical touch with other people unless you're my significant other. Like, I'm very like, I like put on a good face and I'm like, I know my family just loves me and they just want hugs, and that's such a small thing to give them, right? But like, it's really hard for me. And I got to see Vin go through that, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel seen. And so like these things, suddenly I feel so much closer to this character who was really representing things that I was going through in real time when I first read this book. And this isn't even Sanderson's best mental health representation, right? Like, this is his early days of doing this. And like, it means a lot to me personally. She's also working through her roles in several ways, as I like mentioned at the top. She's going through her roles as a woman. So she has the role of assassin and like Ellen's partner, and she doesn't really know how to balance the feminine side to her more masculine occupation. And I feel like that's extremely relatable for a lot of women. I mean, especially like people who go into primarily like male-dominated workforces. I mean, when I was a physics major, there were about 100 people in our class and 10 of them were women. Like, you know, when you have to work in a male-dominated area, you really like, you have to figure out what to do differently. It's not that they're like hard to be around. I actually loved a lot of my male coworkers and colleagues, but you know, how dressed up are you? How dressed down are you? How do you handle with different levels of it? I felt that in Vin too. You know, she's like, I like dresses, but I also don't find them practical. And should I be completely practical, or can I like these nice things? And I really resonated with that as well. And yeah, so those are things that are very personal for me. I really was connecting with Vin. Now, on another separate level, things I don't connect with that were really interesting to re-experience. I was so stressed about Vin suddenly killing everyone with Zane, because I knew that was going to happen, but I couldn't remember what triggered it, and I couldn't remember the thought process. And I just thought, this is very irrational, Vin. Why do you think this is going to solve problems? Also, are you just killing to kill? Do you like this? I was so concerned. And even then, chapters later, Vin's concerned. Vin's trying to unpack what she just did, the horrors that she just inflicted upon people, and why she did it. And I loved going through that because I think it's really good storytelling. When I'm concerned about a thing, and I'm validated in my concern, and then I get to see the character unpack that. It's one of my favorite things. And like the fact that I like was almost like, wait, is this going to be a scene that makes me not like this book as much as I do anymore? Because like I don't see the logic. And then it fixed itself, and I love that so much. And then of course Tensoon and Vin. Oh my god, I love them. First of all, this was the first time where when I read it, I noticed right away when he's the dog, oh, you're not the other guy anymore, because he says this sentence, sorry, I didn't tell you it takes a long time with the fur. And Vin goes, no, you told me. I'm like, oh, you missed that your predecessor did that. Like, it's right from there. Oh, it's so good. But despite the twist and everything like that, like, aside from that, I loved their conversations about the abuse each of them had to deal with and how they cope, and Vin getting to unpack, well, I understand how that feels, and this is how I've been trying to overcome that and keep trust, and why I'm choosing to think this way, because I could think the other way, but what's the point? I loved that, and then the betrayal, but also the anti-betrayal. I love Tensoon. Tensoon's so good. The Tensoon Vin character arc, friendship thing, you know, it wasn't until this read that I realized, oh, this is an animal companion type like subversion, because it's not really an animal companion. Tensoon is not an animal. Like, to put it in that frame is very mean to the Kandras, to say it in any other way. But I love their friendship, and watching it go from like this begrudging work together to like actual trust. So good. I love it. So those are the things that like Vin's arc really made my brain think about, and stuff that I really love. Now, Elend. I did love watching Elend learn how to become a better leader, and having to struggle with the different levels of moral rightness. Like his morals of like, no, I believe in this. It should be done this way. This is what I believe in. But also I believe in saving these people. You know, and like the way I want to save these people is not an advisable path at the moment. So do I give up my higher ideals for this ideal of like protecting people? It's interesting also because that is like a theme in the Stormlight Archives, and I won't get into it, but it's really interesting how both series have this question of, I want to protect people and do it in this philosophically proven to be moral high ground, but they can't choose the moral high ground. It's very interesting that happens in like both series. And so that's something that like I really noticed this time, is the parallels between how Sanderson talks about government in his works, and what is the best form of government or leadership when you're going through a transition period, or when you're going through crises, and in this case, both. Like, what does that look like? And I think it's a really interesting look at what, you know, he posits as what would happen and what he thinks the solution will likely be. I think that's really interesting. I think Elend is also a really interesting character. He's an interesting example of a way that an ally can be both a good ally and have, like, good intentions, but the execution can be off, or his mental headspace is not perfect. It's not without bias, if that makes sense. He has always been fascinated with the Ska, who are the marginalized people of this community. I mean, when he first meets Vin, and Vin's not Ska, she's a noblewoman in the first book, he's, like, obsessed with learning about how she knows so much about Ska, and he definitely thinks of them as exotic. You know, they are other, because he doesn't have these one-on-one interactions with them. And once he acquires those, you know, they become more humanized to him and are less these, like, others. Like, he put them on a pedestal and things like that. And part of that was his upbringing. It was the religion that literally told them that nobles are genetically better than the Ska, you know? So it's not like I was expecting him to be the perfect model. I actually kind of like that he's the imperfect model of an ally. And I don't know if that was intentional. For all I know, maybe he was meant to be this other thing, but, like, the end result is Elend is really what you get most of the time when you have an ally to a marginalized community. Best of intentions, but definitely still makes mistakes within his own head. And I think that's good. And I think what's important, though, and maybe what doesn't happen on page that, I mean, would be make it chef's kiss amazing, is when you really push against that and make that character realize you're doing your best and you have the best of intentions, but you're still kind of making things not ideal for the people you're trying to protect. And that is not a conversation that happens in the book, but that's not the conversation that's meant to be happening. The apocalypse is literally coming. So, like, he wants to focus on that, and if we did have a story where we were literally just, like, Well of Ascension was not about the impending apocalypse and the city is under siege, like, if it was just the city is under siege story, maybe we can unpack that. But there's so much going on. But I find that interesting because that's, like, a thing that also happens in Stormlight Archive with a different character. And there's a character I really love in the Stormlight Archive who is the definition of a well-meaning ally who still doesn't quite get it. Which is okay. Those aren't bad people. Like, I am one of those people. I am a person who is an ally to many communities, and I have and will continue to make well-intentioned mistakes. And that's okay. But it's very interesting that they keep popping up. And I don't know how intentional it is or how much, like, I'm just noticing it, if that makes sense. So that was another thing I noticed with Elend. I don't know. I like Elend. Any character that's a bookworm, I love. Elend and Ollie from the Davabad trilogy are everything to me. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I have never had the moment where a guy has chosen to flirt with me by ignoring me at a table while reading books, but I welcome it at any time. I mean, I'll have to say no, because I'm with Ryan, and I like him. Well, maybe more than like, but, you know, I'm taken. But, it's, you know, it's just stuck with me my whole life. And now Sazed. I'll definitely have more to say about Sazed in the next Mistborn video, because, oh boy, Sazed's got an arc ahead of him. But this story is really interesting, because he's also going through a transition. It's just a bunch of going through transition. You know, we're stuck in one way for so long, and now we got to switch into another gear. How do we handle that? And, you know, Sazed, I mean, he was already kind of rebellious in a very passive way with his people. Like, he chose to join the rebellion, which we learned is not the way for the Keepers. But, I mean, he does that. And, you know, it's funny to think of Sazed as so rebellious, but that's who he is. But he's trying to do his job. He's trying to impart knowledge onto the Ska, help them out, and he doesn't feel fulfilled. And it's really interesting watching him try to figure out his next steps. You know, like, should I be doing what's expected of me? But this mystery is so intriguing, and I want to be with my family, and, like, there are bigger things afoot, and, like, those things intellectually stimulate him more, make him more fulfilled. And then his own self-worth and how he has to realize he is worthy of love, and then to have that snatched away. Oh, Tyndall was so awesome. I loved her so much. And every time, I know she's gonna die. Every time. Oh, the end of the book's atmosphere in terms of, like, the impending doom. It's like when I left the theaters after Infinity War and I just didn't feel good. Like, it's just like, that wasn't happy. Like, yeah, that was expertly done. And, like, for him to have that snatched away and to watch in real time the weight of depression and apathy settle on his character, his loss of faith. Oh, it was well done. Because I think, as I get older, I've gone through loss in stronger ways. Like when I first read this, when I was like 16, 15, like I've lost things. I lost my cat. There was stuff happening in my family. Like I definitely had understood grief to a degree, but like I think, as you experience it more, because you're never done experiencing grief in your life, I more associate the depression that follows, and I can see it, and like the why should I care, and it's just like, I think it's really great. I really appreciate it, and especially having this character who is this holder and believer in religions question his faith and have to deal with that. Yeah, it's really good. So those are like all the things this book made me think about this time around. I really love this series. I'm having so much fun rereading it. I don't know what I expected. Like, I love it. It's one of my favorite series of all time. But, like, I guess I just haven't reread it in, like, 5 years. So I really just didn't know what I would get out of it. And I'm just... It's really great for me. And so if you made it this far, feel free to talk to me about what you think about when you think of Well of Ascension. No spoilers for anything outside of Final Empire or Well of Ascension. And please do type spoiler and then press enter a few times. I don't want anyone to accidentally click on this video and see a spoiler. I don't want anyone to be spoiled for Tensoon or anything like that. Like, no, that's so much fun to figure out on your own. Well, and also, I guess I should say, the Chosen One trope in this book is my favorite Chosen One trope. Like, Vin, you're the Chosen One, but not for the good guys. Like, that's the best. It's the absolute best. I love it so much. Oh, I loved reading the epigraphs this time, because I was actually noticing how they were different from Sazed's, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like, I was noticing the whole, like, hey, that's a height difference thing. Like, I was being really geeky about it. And I've, like, noticed Easter eggs for Storm. Like, those aren't, like, really conversational things, but I was having so much fun interacting with this text again. But yeah, and if you just want to leave an emoji, leave, like, a wolf. Tensoon. Yeah. And otherwise, like, if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.